No, you might as well leave it up. So obviously recording's just started. Just want to sort of welcome everybody to the meeting. Hopefully we'll have a few more join as we go along, and as we always say, you don't have to stay for the whole event. You can pick and choose the items that interest you. So hopefully we've got a action-packed session for you, but as always, if you enjoy what you hear and see, please tell your friends. And if you have any ideas of what would go down well at one of these sessions, please either post it to the chat, email myself or Jane, and we'll try and meet your needs. So I'm going to shut up and we can crack on with, hopefully is Jason here for his region.
I am here, Daryl. Hello.
Excellent.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi,
all.
Jason.
Right. Let me try and share my screen.
Over to you, mate.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Right. If one person could give me a nod that they can see my screen.
It's still black at the moment, but
I did have this problem before with. Give it 1 second. I might ask you to do me a favour, Daryl.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, just huge delays there. Apologies. So, good morning, everybody. My name's Jason Donovan. I'm my job title is actually going to change. We've been through a consultation, but I'm currently the head of finance in English, doing management accounts. I do management accounts at a sort of macro level. So I've got about 5 minutes of slides, and I'm happy to take questions. Apologies for those of you who see this very regularly. I've got the same information. I haven't got any rehash of it. What you're currently looking at is the variance. So the regional team, and I think finance team generally, we talk a little bit about variances. We're constantly talking about variances. So we set up a plan. A budget is a plan in financial terms, but I thought it might be useful to start with a bit of context. So these 6 systems I'm going to talk to you about spend about £15 billion, 15,000 times £1 million. Now my brain doesn't really work in billions, if I'm honest with you. I'm more of a low rent kind of guy. I can understand billions as a concept, but I generally deal in millions now, which makes me sound very self-important, I suppose. But at the regional level, kind of looking at the millions. How are we off by millions? But been in jobs where every 5 are counted. So this is the position that the systems report in up to the national team in India, and I'll walk you through it. I'm deliberately going to go step by step. Apologies where I'm teaching granny things that are blindingly obviously, but let's just start. So in the year to date, the system had a plan that had a deficit of £62.2 million. So they were planning on having a deficit of £62.2 million. And why might that be? Well, lots of organisations are saying I haven't quite got all my SIP plans, my cost improvement plans fully up to date yet. So I'm going to do more at the end of the year. I'm going to be slightly more efficient at the end of the year when I get all this on track. So part of the way through the year, I'm going to have a deficit of £60 million. Our actuals are 117 million. So we are worse than where we were hoping to be by a grand total of nearly £55 million. Big numbers. Try and keep this in context. So £100 million is 0.66 of 1% of what we spend. That's not, we're indifferent to it. We're very, very worried about these numbers. They're big, but the context is important. Even more important than where we are, the where we are in the year to date for the region, and I guess for most where I'm going to finish is the most important thing. Like a foot race, really doesn't matter where you are throughout the year. It's indicative. It's really important we get a steer on it. But where you know those lunatics who used to, don't see it so much anymore. They're separate. London Marathon. You could be on the camera for a little bit if you wanted to. At the start of a London Marathon, if you were prepared to sprint for 300 or 400 meters, you could be on telly. But no one really paid attention to that in the race like that. So year end, we're now forecasting we're going to be a deficit of £46.5 million. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So sorry, let me make mine speak really clear. At the year end, we're going to have a deficit of £86.9 million, our latest forecast. That is £46.5 million worse than the planned deficit. So at the start of the year, we asked all systems to put in plans. The ask is, can you deliver a break-even plan? That wasn't possible for all the systems. Mid and South Essex was saying, coming off the year we've just had, it's not possible or credible to produce a plan that can deliver break-even in 1 year. So they have a recovery plan over a number of years, but in 1 year couldn't get there. So MSE was saying, we're going to have a deficit of £40 million at the start of the year. Now, the whole region is saying, I think I'm going to turn out about £87 million deficit, 46.5 worse than planned. There's two reasons for that. MSE is saying, well, even that £40 million looks too much of a stretch now. I think we're going to be about 57 million. The reason you can't see 57 million in that cell there is because another overlay has happened to all of this. We've had industrial action. All of the systems were asked to say, can you tell me what costs you've had for industrial action in December and January that you cannot mitigate? So what costs have incurred to you with a 6-day junior doctor strike that you can't swallow? Either you've had to backfill those people or you've lost additional elective recovery monies. So that's the position. So that's job one. Where are we at year to date? We're going to have an £87 million deficit. It's 47 million worse than planned. That's not okay, but that's where we are. The next bit is really key. I put this in at the bottom. I had a director of finance when I was in Wales. He was really religious. He was a really religious guy, and I thought he was really like gentle and sweet. And he's the first DOF I'd ever heard swear. He didn't swear at me, but he's the first one I ever heard swear. I'm like, wow, where's this come from? And he said to something along the lines of, I need players, not scorekeepers. So that was when I went into the room and was explaining to him the position wasn't everything that we might have wanted it to be. But I'll take the message. The message is really important. And especially in a regional role, you don't need someone just constantly giving out, here's where you are, do better. That's not enough. We need players. So what are the region doing? We're trying to get clear about the variance drivers as possible. And there's a few key bits on top of the industrial action. Temporary staffing premium. We cannot recruit enough permanent staff that we're having to use so much bank and agency, and there's a premium associated. Challenges delivering SIPs, especially delivering recurrent SIPs. The other job we do is we communicate national policy to systems, and we can communicate local challenges back to the national team. So the national team will say, oh, we've got this approach, we're trying to adopt, and we try and make sense of that. We try and translate it so systems can adopt it. There's a few other things that I'm sort of really privileged in this job. I've got helicopter analysis everywhere. You can see every trust right across the country. You can see every system, and we try and share that. Try and share, well, what's the comparative info? Share best practice. We'll give direct hands-on support. We are at times a critical friend. We are at times will be meetings where we add a bit of grist to the mill. We try and challenge what's going on, provide ideas, and we provide direct intervention. So for Mid and South Essex and any other system that goes off plan going forwards, we'll be in a triple lock situation. That's where any discretionary expenditure will be signed off by the regional team. And the final thing I wanted to say is we try and adopt a holistic multidisciplinary team approach. So that triple lock's a really good example of where finance stay in our lane. You do not want finance making unitary decisions about what should or should not be spending money on. You need finance to be involved in the conversation for sure, but that's got to be a collective decision. And the reason it's got to be a collective decision, I'll just move on to my final slide and then explain why that's the case and then take any questions we've got. So just an update on planning. Hoping the guidance is out on the 31st of January. If you ever hear anyone from NHS England speak, they will always use qualifiers. They will always say hope. And thinking, I hate the soft language, but I hope it's out by the end of 31st of January. Experience has told everybody who's been around for more than 6 months, sometimes things are later than they want to be. It's not through lack of trying, and it's not that they're disinterested in it. Primarily it's caused because there's currently an ongoing discussion between government and the Department of Health about what the funding should be. And you can't give out full details without knowing how much the envelope is. So we're not indifferent to the problems it creates. The first flash return is sort of a shortened return, simpler return, due on the 29th of February, hoping for the final returns to be end of March. We're aware that we're trying not to concertina the time systems have got to produce plans, because less time, lower quality plan, but need things in place to use for the new year. So we're trying to juggle that at the moment. We're hoping the initial returns that come back are triangulated between workforce, activity levels and money. The three key elements, there's lots of other elements, but the three key ones that we do on the returns, that they make sense to each other. If there's more staff, well, are you planning on spending more money? Because that would make sense. If you're going to deliver more activity, have you got more staff in place? Or are you going to improve productivity? But does the whole thing set up? The final 2 points from me. The current focus for regional team is to improve exit run rates. So we're looking at trying to deliver the best possible year 22, 23, the one that's going to end in a couple of months, 23, 24, sorry, couple of months ending. And that gives us a good start for next year. Whilst protecting quality and it's never a slash and burn. Finance has never been that. As long as I've been in the NHS, we never just cut. We always try and do it in the most sensible, pragmatic way possible. But we have to prepare systems that collectively, the collectively there means region and systems and providers. We might need to make increasingly difficult decisions. There may be rationing decisions to be made. So I will stop sharing then. And that rationing thing is why on the last slide I said the holistic approach is really important. So that when MSE say, do you know what? I think I saw Mike on thinking I'd like to install some new gold toilets. I'll be pretty confident going, do you know what, Mike? You can sit on an ordinary toilet like the rest of us. You don't need that. I don't know why I'm picking on you, Mike. It's just I saw your face, sorry. But if someone else says, do you know what? This service, we don't need to start that for a few months. Respectfully, what do finance know? What happens if you delay it a month? Well, if you delay that service a couple of months, the person might go blind. If you delay this a little while, I'll give you one example before I shut up. When I first started, I joined this trust in St George's in London. It was quite a big job. It was a big step up for me. And I was in this meeting. They were talking about cellulitis. And I thought, I swear to God, thought cellulitis was bad cellulite. Couldn't for the life of me understand why we're having a conversation about, I see it's cosmetic, I can understand all of this. Cellulitis goes wrong, we'll chop your feet off. So finance have to be careful. Some of you are probably fantastically well informed about operational things, but why wouldn't you involve the experts when you're doing it? So I will stop talking there, Daryl, Jane, and happy to take questions or happy to disappear if we've overrun.
Just got a question in the chat, Jason, if you can just explain what you mean by exit run rate.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, yes. God, finance are terrible for this, aren't they? What we mean is the amount of money recurrently you're going to be spending every month in March. So at the end of March, so you'll have a payroll, people who work there in March, you'll have some ongoing costs like your council tax, your electricity, some costs that are just baked in. You spent them in March, you're going to spend them in April, you're going to spend them in May. Exit run rate. And that's differentiated from non-recurrent costs. So you will have had some costs that are baked into 23, 24 that are one-offs. Industrial action, hopefully a one-off, maybe not a one-off. Some of the increasing costs in electricity and gas. There'd be some costs. If we were to take the average cost of those things through the year, not a good example. March is probably a good time to decide on what they are. So what we're trying to do really is make the organisations as efficient as possible running into the new year. An exit run rate is just, well, which of those costs that are going to carry on? I can see the other one in there, Daryl.
Okay, cool.
Right. Well, that's a really good question. Effective thing. Right. So I think it comes in a couple of flavours. One, understand them. If you understand your costs, then you'll know what they are. If you understand what they are, some really simple things, techniques I've seen are like pie charts. What do you spend your money on? Just spend it on paper clips or just spend it on this or that. And when you look at it, you'd be amazed. Recently, we did a bit of a deep dive. I was amazed on what one FT can spend on funeral expenses. Just didn't know we paid for it. I didn't know we were the resource of last thing. If there's no one else, intestate, no one else is going to pay for it. Hospitals will pay for burials. I wouldn't have had a clue about, can we do that a bit cheaper? Because I didn't even know that was a thing. So I think the first thing is being informed. And the second thing, ask other colleagues, ask someone else. We spend this on this. What have you done about that? Ask the experts. It's really good to come up with your own ideas. I'd always have a think yourself, no blank pages ever. But then go ask some experts because someone else may have already done it.
Thank you, Jason. James, got your hand up.
Thanks, Jason. And that's a huge, big question, isn't that previous one? I was just thinking when I saw that last question. Sorry, I should introduce you. I'm James Rowe from Esneft, if anyone doesn't know me. But I was thinking that last one. My first thought was good business partnering. How can we do that? It's a good business partner. I think it is always a good one. And there's also the, if it helped, that national checklist that was sent round that was about how do we control cost. So running down the national checklist, I can't remember where it came from now, but back end of last year, and that went through every level of expenditure as well, which was quite a useful one. But no, I agree completely with what you say. There's some of those areas of spend that you see that you can really reduce. But my question, sorry, was what's the best way that you think we could, just linking back to sort of not burning and sort of doing that rationalisation of services and having that helicopter view, what's the best way that you think we can share good SIP schemes?
I think at the moment the NHS is slightly guilty of having them in too many places. So I agree that when you talk about that checklist, that's really good. We've also got the playbook. So we had a lady called Caroline Atkinson present, and I really loved Caroline too. And so I've already spoken to two, and we've got a few. I think if we could empower organisations to just spend a tiny bit more time with writing up their own ideas, to idiot proof it for the rest of us, to make it as digestible as possible for everybody else, because there's so much good practice out there, but we almost haven't got time to read the good practice. So just whatever everyone can do to make it as simple as possible for everyone, and I guess almost a unitary list or a unitary way into the list, because unitary list is never going to happen, but just a simple way in. And I'm aware that organisations like HFMA have got that. And this is just, I think, yeah, the simplest thing would be if we could get ourselves to a simple single start point of go here and start here, and we could branch out from there. And when it lands, it's written in the plainest English it could possibly be, assuming no prior knowledge.
Thanks, James. I will shut down the conversation now, as we need to get on to our next speaker. And it is Richard Sawyer from the One NHS Finance team, and he has helpfully posted in where hopefully the vast majority of innovations and efficiency ideas are held.
We would hope so, Daryl. Yeah, there's 125 peer-reviewed innovations, all submitted by NHS Finance and all peer-reviewed by people just like yourselves. So we are looking for peer reviewers. Free to sign up. You do a little SWOT analysis, anonymous and have a look at all the things that people have sent in. And if they get thumbs up, great. We publish them as a web page and a PDF, and hopefully they're written in accessible English with no prior knowledge needed. You've also got at the bottom of every page, if submitted by the innovator, a files section, so you can download all those files, all those templates, and get working. And the idea to create that originally was 2 years ago, and essentially it's, you know, everyone's facing similar problems across the system, and they're going to all deal with them in different ways. So why should anyone start at scratch every single time? Let's try and pull that knowledge. And the same with the efficiency exchange. So that was produced as a result in about 10 weeks at the requirement of the productivity network, is about 350 people strong. They meet every 2 months, and they're chatting about these sorts of ideas and trying to sort of share them. Huge number of visits, the efficiency exchange, not so many posts. Wonder why that is. So there are realized and ideas in there as well. We'd love more, but ultimately it's about, you know, people just checking these things before they start having to crack on and try and start with a blank sheet of paper, because it's not blank. There are ideas and great things already happening, and our challenge is to get people to share them a little quicker. So we try and make that process as easy as possible. Let us know if we can make it easier. Right, what I'm going to present on is nothing to do with that. So if I'm all right to crack on, I'm just going to share my slides now. You may or may not, actually I should introduce myself probably, that makes most sense, doesn't it? So my name's Richard Sawyer. I'm Programme Manager for the Finance Innovation Forum as part of One NHS Finance, which is hosted by the HFMA and funded by NHS England Department of Health. Hopefully you're familiar with it, given this is a value APA meeting, and if you are not, there are lots of links to get involved. So what I'm going to talk to you about for about 10 minutes today is EVO, something I've been working on developing with colleagues for quite a while now. At the end of the presentation, there's about 12 case studies from the pilot of this that we ran in 2019. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but if we've got time, I can. But what I'm going to talk to you about is this year, the 2024 version of EVO, which stands for Engagement Value Outcome. And hopefully you can see the slide. Right, so what is EVO? So the ultimate goal of this framework is to help teams improve patient care at the system level by supporting evidence driven value-based decisions at the specialty and service level. So the framework itself takes the form of a free of charge project management handbook about this thick, which NHS trusts can be awarded, and we post it to you on completion of a successful application. And the application requires the medical director, the director of finance, and the trust board all to sign a commitment statement for EVO, and then essentially sign to a schedule that protects teams like yours time in order to complete the framework. So basically the handbook itself has been designed to foster collaboration between clinical and finance teams within NHS trusts, and it empowers those teams to make decisions, implement the changes, and then ultimately measure the impact of clinical transformations using value. And I'll go into that, how you're going to be able to do that yourselves now. But the primary focus is firmly on prioritizing the health outcomes for patients using the resources available. So as I said, it's designed for NHS trusts whose clinical colleagues are passionate about improving the care provided to patients within its specialties and services. And essentially, we're working with operational, project improvement and finance staff to evidence the need for change and the impact of any improvements made. Okay, so we've worked with a number of clinical, finance and project collaborators to produce this handbook. You can see the guys from Making Data Count. If you're familiar in the costing world, you've got the quality service improvement redesign. This whole handbook is about 100 resources, all scannable and clickable, that you can use throughout your process. Now, so I'm going to go into a bit of detail on that, but basically what we've chosen to do is we've chosen to introduce EVO thematically using the analogy of space exploration. So I'll have a bit of fun with this. So our aim basically is to kindle enthusiasm and foster a positive attitude towards change within each service. And by relating EVO to a familiar and accessible concept, we hope to provide sort of context and engagement that will bring multidisciplinary teams together with a shared vision. So here goes. Okay, so what's the mission? So Your Home Planet, NHS Trust, has submitted an application for a rocket exploration program called EVO. So this program will ultimately help to improve the quality of life for the population on Your Home Planet. And Your Home Planet has identified 3 areas, specialties and services, that will be the subject of the mission. So each area has put forward a flight crew, and each crew will ultimately launch their rocket into orbit around their planet from the EVO launch site. So the mission. So each crew's mission is to orbit around the planet they share, collectively observe their area from space together, and use the information gathered during this to agree on a plan to transform and improve it for the benefit of all who live and visit there. So this handbook gives a crew everything they're going to need in order to complete the mission. So who takes part? So individuals from 3 core disciplines, finance, clinical and project, are needed for this mission. We've got the EVO champions. So they're collectively responsible for sponsoring the entire mission. Champions are not part of the crew itself, but instead support from the ground. And then you've got the EVO leads. So the EVO leads are collectively responsible for a successful mission. So each have different roles in the crew. So essentially, if you've got a clinical lead, they're the rocket's captain, and they know most about their area back home. You've got the 2 project leads. So they're responsible for the navigation, and they'll guide that rocket's orbit during the orbit. And then you've got the finance lead. So they're responsible for the rocket's engines, and they'll use the data as fuel for propulsion. And you've also got the EVO participants. So these are different subject matter experts and are encouraged to share their knowledge with their crew to support a successful mission. So there are 3 sort of phases to the whole mission. Launch preparation, the EVO journey, and the EVO transformation. So first off, you've got your launch preparation. So that lasts about 2 to 4 weeks. So once your handbook arrives, you're going to spend about a month. The 2 project leads and the finance lead are going to spend about a month acquainting themselves with the handbook. And the handbook will help them understand how the rocket works, what trajectory an orbit should take, and what the crew should do in an event of any unexpected variation, let's say, to their flight path. Now, the second phase, this is the EVO journey. And this central component of the mission is expected to take 16 weeks to complete. So 3 crews in 3 separate rockets will take off at the launch together, and they will all orbit their planet simultaneously, each observing their specific area before all landing back on their home planet together. So a little more about the 3 stages to the EVO journey. We've got the launch, we've got the orbit, which essentially comprises formulate, evaluate and allocate, and decide and plan, and finish with the landing. Now, data burns, they take place at the beginning of the first 2 stages, and they propel the rocket and its crew further into their orbit. And outcome markers, or markers, they act as waypoints, and they're used to self-assess a rocket's progress during an orbit. And a rocket that reaches marker 3 indicates a crew that is on course to achieve all of its intended objectives. Right, so a little bit more detail about each of these stages. So the launch. So the launch sort of marks the start of the mission. It brings together the champions and introduces all 3 flight crews. And at the launch, the crews will gain an understanding of their mission, the timescales involved, and the different roles each crew member has. And then all 3 rockets will then launch into orbit. And that orbit for each rocket will take 8 weeks. And that's got 3 components to it, as I've discussed. So that formulate first component. During this first bit, the crew can expect to agree on 3 hypotheses or clinical hunches that they think are likely to improve their area back home. And they also expect to agree on a number of measures. And these measures, which will help them sort of assess the viability of each of these hypotheses later on in the orbit. Right, the second one, evaluate and allocate. So by performing that data burn that you can see, the crew can use the evidence gained during that process to essentially evaluate the probability of the 3 hypotheses. And they'll agree which of the 3 markers each hypothesis should be allocated to. Essentially, this evaluation allocation process will dictate the marker the rocket will reach in that final stage, decide and plan. And if a crew essentially has had a successful data burn and completed evaluate and allocate without any issues, then their rocket is likely to reach marker 3. And a crew whose rocket reaches marker 3 essentially will return to their planet, and they will have agreed on a plan to measurably improve their area back home. They'll also have agreed when these improvements that they're going to make will take place, and also have a date to meet after the transformation has taken place to assess the impact of those changes. Now, crews whose only reaches markers 1 and 2, essentially they can expect to reflect positively on their orbit, and they will benefit from the progress made. These crews are likely to return home with an understanding of how they can make meaningful improvements to the rocket, and that they can plan a future orbit and reach marker 3 next time. And then what we've got is the landing. So that concludes the journey. It brings all 3 crews and champions back together. And once back on ground, each crew will share their findings and discuss the lessons learned and ways to improve the effectiveness of future orbits. And then we've got the third phase, which is the transformation. So having landed, those crews that did reach marker 3, they will have a plan in place to transform their area back home. And this EVO transformation expected to take about 4 weeks, but that'll vary depending on the scale of the transformation being undertaken. And to implement these changes, the crews are likely to require support from additional people and individuals back on their area. And after all these changes have been implemented, the crew will meet one final time at the end of the process and conduct a final sort of assessment of their mission and measure the impact their improvements have made back on their home planet. Right, so that's a nice friendly space analogy to go through it. So I'm just going to go through a bit more detail and deviate from the analogy here, because we're all finance folk here, so we want a bit more of the numbers side of it, don't we? Right, so the measure. So I've talked about value being a measure, and there's many different definitions of value, but essentially what this is about, what EVO does, is takes the very conceptual idea of value currently and simplifies it and brings it right down to something very tangible that crews on the ground in trust at specialty and service level will be able, after this process and during this process, to use value impact and value as a practical measure of improvement in the transformations that are made. And I'll show you a little bit how we're going to do that now. There's obviously, and if we look at the value equation here, we've got quality, which comprises sort of clinical outcomes, patient experience, and patient safety. And there's overall sort of a focus on quality, but sustainable improvement in quality. So that's where that resources element comes in. And broadly, we're using a wide range of data types for that, but specifically PLICs because of its timely nature. Many trusts are running quarterly PLICs at this point. So but obviously we've got SLR available, we've got GERFT as well, and a number of other data sources, but PLICs primarily in terms of the transformation. So if you keep that in mind for the next slide, this is how we're going to translate, and teams are going to be able to translate all of this into a measure of improvement. So I'm going to quickly share with you 3 value tools crews will use in the process to give you a bit more of a feel. So what you're looking at here, you recognize the yellow and the red. So we've got a quality component there of the value equation. You've got the resources and cost component. And essentially in that first session, in that formulate session, this is one of the tools that the teams will use. And what they'll do is they'll go through, and clinical teams will already have an idea of what good looks like in their specialty. So what we've got here is a maternity services example. So they've got a good idea of what good looks like. And then essentially this tool allows them to transpose that into what we're calling value metrics. And this is measurable elements that indicate what good looks like in a specialty. And these value metrics will be used throughout the process to assess the probability, validity of proposed changes. And the teams will do that collectively together as a multidisciplinary team. And I'll show you how. So we're going to skip forward into the next tool, which is called the Value Options Comparisons tool. And we see here we've got outcomes, experience, and resources. You've still got your value equation here. You've got your quality and you've got your resources element. And the value metrics we just defined in the last tool. And this all takes place in the third session called Decide and Plan, you'll remember. And essentially what they're going to do is they've got their opportunity for clinical transformation. They have it already as part of that process. And they're going to go through and use these value metrics to assess the different clinical options for how they're going to tackle that opportunity for transformation. Okay, but we're also going to factor in risk in this and strategic factors. And these are all weighted and decided as part of the process earlier on. So session 3 is going to kick off with this. And what you've got here is 5 options in this maternity service example we're rolling through, 5 options for tackling that opportunity for clinical transformation. And essentially the rating system, I'm not going to go into detail, but it's essentially a 5-point Likert scale. Those not familiar with that, essentially it's 1 to 5. 5 here demonstrates sort of clear measurable value generation, low risk of failure and full alignment with the strategy. And 1 demonstrates the inverse of that, so poor value impact, high risk of failure, misalignment with strategy, etc. And essentially we can see from the teams using this tool that option 2 has been designated as the most appropriate option for tackling that transformation. And this is it in a very visual graph to be able to articulate that to people not doing EVO throughout the process, if you need it for a business case or whatever. So during the remainder of the session, the final session before the landing, teams will review their progress and they'll agree on a schedule for the upcoming EVO transformation, which I told you about. And we'll go on to that now. So if you imagine in this example, this is the 3rd tool that we're going to go into now and the final one. Don't worry, I won't run too much over time. But essentially what we've got here, you've done your transformation. You've engaged in what the handbook articulates as a PDSA plus cycle, and all the details of that are in there. The plus denotes the PLICs measurement during that period of time. So you've gone through your month-long process. You've transformed the specialty of service during this, and essentially where you're going to meet, the team's going to meet at the end, the crew's going to meet at the end, and they're all going to sit down and perform this little quality assessment. Now, what we've got in front of you here, you've got the quality bit, the resources and cost bit is taken out for now, and I'll show you for why in a minute. We've got the metrics, which we already know about in our previous slides, and we've got the weighting, which is maintained here as well, and we've got the projected pathway. Now we decided on that in the last tool, in the options tool. This is what we thought this is how we decided that we use this option for transformation. Then the teams are asked to essentially think about their transformed pathway now they've had the month and the actual implementation that happened, and they're going to rescore it using the same metrics. You've also, they're then asked to assess the original pathway. So this is before EVO happened or existed. What does that original pathway look like with the same weightings and measures of success? And then you've got that quality aspiration. So with a few more PDSA plus cycles, with a few more tweaks and changes, what do we think we could get to in terms of quality in an aspirational way in terms of changes? And then this goes into a final tool, which is called the value impact comparison tool. Now, everything you're looking at is the same. We've got our quality measures, we've got our value metrics, we've got our weighting, we've got the original pathway, and we have the transform pathway. And this comparison tool is going to compare those two in terms of value. So 80% average weighted score is summarized for both. And then the resource is coming back in. So the resource was LICA measured back in session 3. And in this, because we have the PLIX data and we've set that up during that month, we essentially can enter. And what we've got here, based on budget plus or minus pounds variance, essentially, we've got 15% improvement on the PLIX side. So we're entering that and weighting that at 20%. Combining those scores. And what we've got here is the value impact comparison score, and that's a mouthful, I know. So we're calling it the VIC score. So the VIC score demonstrates a 35% improvement that has been made on that pathway from original to the transformed. And in addition to that, you've got the quality aspiration, so an additional 4% of opportunity for improvement based on value, factoring in quality, cost, strategy, risk, in all a single bundle demonstrated as the VIC score. And actually, that's an incredibly compelling and powerful argument when you've got your medical director, you've got your board, you've got your CFO, all signed committing to EVO about 16 to 20 weeks before, and potentially your teams are coming back with 3 specialties or services who are able to articulate numerically and quantitatively the improvement in value impact, factoring in the quality and cost within that. How am I for time, Daryl? And have I gone over? In which case, I can bail out at this point, because I'm going to talk about the outputs, outcomes. I can go on to system bits. I've just wanted to ask.
Quite considerably over relative to our little time slots, but so if it's okay, if we can dip out at that at this point. I was just going to say thanks. That was really, really helpful. And just to say, if you are interested but want to know more, then Rich is doing a workshop as part of the East of England conference on the Monday, the virtual one. I think Jane will correct me if I got that wrong.
I don't think he knows that yet, but we would very much like you to, Rich.
Yeah, I don't, but it sounds good. Let me know a date.
Okay. So yeah, sorry to put you on the spot there, Rich, but you're in, mate. What I propose that we do is, Claire, you've come on screen. So if we take your item, if you can try and stick to the 10 minutes, then what we'll do is have a 5-minute screen break, and then Jane will shorten her item. So welcome to Jack and Claire.
Thanks, Daryl. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Clare Hinton, Deputy Director of Finance at the NNN, and my colleague Jack is here joining me today. Jack, did you want to just say hello?
Hi there, everyone.
And we're here to talk to you about an innovation that we have developed at the Trust, which is all to do with helping us.
Nottingham or Northampton?
Oh, I think someone needs to go on mute. So sorry, apologies. Yeah, so basically, we're going to talk to you a bit about an innovation that we've developed, which is all about helping us to grapple with the challenge that inflation has presented us, particularly in recent times, as we've seen some unprecedented inflation rates that we've been all trying to manage. So Jack is going to talk us through the innovation in a bit more detail, having done most of the hard graft around this innovation. So Jack, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much. Can everyone see the presentation, or has that? Yep, that's appeared. That's great. So yeah, so we're here to talk to you about the procurement price index that we've developed. As Claire described, it's really what we're trying to do is have an index of how inflation is affecting our trust specifically. There was a lot of impact from indexation, and we wanted to know exactly what was happening for us. It's not the same necessarily as for other industries or for the wider, or probably even for different trusts. So to do this, we set up something similar to a CPI. Took a load of goods for both our clinical and non-clinical spend, and started tracking them on a monthly basis to see what was happening. Although we already touched on it, why we're doing this, it's because for the first time in many years, inflation had gone absolutely crazy. We're all used to having low interest rates and effectively very little change in product costs. But from 2021 onwards, we'd seen a huge rise in inflation, and it was definitely something we needed to take account of in our budgets. But how much did we need to take account of it, and which budgets did it need to be looking at? We used the CPI methodology. It's been around for a long time. Most people understand Consumer Prices Index. And we absolutely just piggybacked off their idea of taking a basket of goods on the things that we spent most on. We used our previous year's ordering data for that. Set up these baskets of goods that aligned to our clinical and non-clinical spends. And then we use a system called Nexus, which is linked to Powergate, that provides a sort of catalogue, and we use the prices held in Nexus to keep a track of the items that we'd selected. And as in a CPI, we baselined the start of it at 100 so we could see what was happening. How did it look then? So our outputs were really, really interesting. So the clinical supplies indexation was very low and had a very small, gentle uptake, and the indexation wasn't really affecting there. But for our non-clinical supplies, we saw and this really helped us to manage what we were going to release when, and to know whether or not our budgeted provisions were also going to be sufficient. We've moved on now, and 2023 is a bit calmer in terms of indexation, and we're now recording both actual indexation that we're feeling against our budgeted expectation of indexation. So we can see that both clinical and non-clinical supplies are sort of broadly in line here after the very big spikes from the previous years for non-clinical. Now, as to how we're using it in practice, it's really useful for being able to monitor that indexation, so you know where it's affecting. We can break it down into subcategories. It's been very useful for procurement, because they very often say they've done a great job of managing to keep prices down, and we all say, well, we want prices to be less, and you know, if it's got to be less than what we had budgeted last year. But actually, this has been quite motivational for procurement to be able to sort of accurately quantify something where we're saying, well, we expected it to be this and it's come out at less. That's probably something good that we're doing overall well as a trust. And it also supports the distribution of putting some of that indexation into our budgeting and sort of being able to identify where it's likely to hit. Now, this was just one small piece of a wider puzzle, and Clare was really managing the wider puzzle. So we have this the consumable lines and the non-clinical lines were these two small parts of a wider tracker that Clare managed. I don't know if you would like to add something about that, Clare.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, so this just to show how that really useful work that Jack's just described was all about helping us to unpick a couple of lines within our wider view of how inflation was impacting across the organisation. And what I've got here is a copy of what we were describing as our trust-wide inflation tracker, but this essentially is looking across all of our cost groups, starting with pay and then breaking down our non-pay into different cost lines and cost groups where we were expecting inflation to behave differently. So an obvious area, we've immediately pulled out utilities, as that was going absolutely crazy, and then breaking down our cost base basically into areas that we could start analysing separately. So there are a number of areas where we've got big contracts. We can, easily start to see and pull out those separately. But what we ended up with was some fairly significant blobs of spend, which we're kind of a bit stuck with. And that's where the work that Jack's just described comes in, because it allows us to sort of cut through some of that kind of general spend, if you like, that isn't that easy necessarily to isolate and put your finger on what's exactly going on with particular contracts. So those two yellow lines are the areas that we've ended up using the two different indices to help us to manage.
Okay. And that's us.
Happy to take any questions if we've got time, Darryl.
Well, in the interest of time, what I'll suggest is, are you hanging around for the second part? If not, what we'll do, if people want to post questions to the chat, we'll pick them up and link in with you. I'm suggesting if we have a 5-minute comfort break now, and then we'll try and catch up during the second half. And then if you're still here and there's time for questions, then we can come back to that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. I'm planning to hang around. I don't know about Jack. You as well?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, a request for a copy of the template's already come in. But yeah, so if we could just have a 5-minute break now. So what, 48? So yeah, if we could just come back at about, let's say 5 past. Come back at 5 past 49. Hang on. What am I saying? 5:02. If we come back at 5:02, thank you. See you all in 5 minutes.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
Right, the important person is here, and that's Jodi, who's going to present our next session. So Jodi's just shared a screen. I can see the slides. So you crack on, and hopefully we'll have a few more people join as we go. You're on mute, Jodi.
Classic. Oh, it's a good start. Hello everyone, I'm Jodi Martin. I'm work for Norfolk and Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust, which is a mental health trust, and I'm also the lead value maker for Norfolk and Waveney. I'm going to do an update today on health and wellbeing. Firstly, I just wanted to share why health and wellbeing is so important to me. Quite a few years ago, I had my first I guess my big promotion. It wasn't so big in terms of a step in banding, but in terms of responsibility, it felt like a huge responsibility for me. I was responsible for managing a really a much bigger team. I think there was like 11 people in the team and hadn't had much management responsibility before. I was doing monthly reporting to senior managers. We just merged with another mental health trust. We were implementing an electronic budget setting system, and it just all got so much of me. For me, I don't want to let anyone down, and I didn't want to let my managers down, people who had appointed me. And I just got to a point where I was really anxious. My heart was pounding. I wasn't sleeping. I'd be driving to work, crying, thinking I can't do this. At the same time, I was recruiting to the job that I just moved out of. So I was thinking, if I recruit to that, there's no way back. I haven't got my comfort blanket. And then you sit in the car park at work and you'd be like, right, pull yourself together, sit there, manage to stop the tears. And then you'd walk in, people go, oh, hi, Jodi, how are you? And then it would just start again. You'd be like, I'm not okay. And my manager she sent me home. My manager at the time, she just said, right, go home. There's nothing is as important as your health. So I'm just going to share that part of it a bit later on. I'll talk about what happened in the end. So what is well-being? Health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And I think sometimes we forget that. It's also well-being is our subjective assessment of how we feel we're doing and how sustainable this is for the future. So we might be at a point where we think, do you know what, I'm okay now, but you can feel the anxiety or the stress building up. And you get to a point where you think, I'm okay at the moment, I don't know how long I can continue this for. So it's about being aware of that as well, like how sustainable how your feeling is for the future. Hopefully lots of you are aware of this as well. So we've got the 3 dimensions of health. We've got the physical, so the keeping fit, being free of disease, being able to function physically, but there's also the mental side as well, so able to think clearly, make judgments and decisions. And then the social side, so able to relate to others, being part of social networks and relationships. By being aware of the different pressures which have negative effects on these 3 dimensions of health, you can start to come up with ideas on how you can try and reduce pressures and regain a balance in your own life and of the lives of those that you work with as well. So I wanted to talk to you briefly about this thing called 5 ways to well-being, and this is a holistic approach. So it incorporates the physical, mental and social side. So there's a great deal of evidence to show that each element of the 5 ways to well-being can help improve our sense of well-being and build resilience. The model is widely used by the NHS and many mental health organisations, and the best way to think of them is as a 5 a day for positive well-being. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the East of England Ambulance Service, who have provided this information for me as well. So I was aware of the 5 ways to well-being, and they've got this brilliant document that they've shared with their staff in the team. So I have plagiarised this as well. I'm not allowed to say pinch of pride anymore, am I, Daryl? I'm showing best practice. So thank you to the East England Ambulance Service. The benefits of building the 5 ways into your daily routine. We all work for a busy trust. Work pressures in turn impact well-being, and this has a knock-on effect on relationships, not just at work, but home life as well, and many other aspects of our lives. So the first step is about connecting. As human beings, we're naturally social animals. Positive social connections and supportive relationships create the very foundation of our well-being. So have a think about that. I'll share these slides with you after as well, or I think Jane will send them out, so you can have a look a bit more in detail at the slides. But thinking about investing in our relationships builds trusts and provides us with a support network. This is at home and at work as well. And regularly connecting with friends, family, neighbours and colleagues can make us feel good. Getting involved in our local communities increases our sense of belonging. So this slide, I'll just let you have a quick read through this. This is about some different ideas of how you could connect. So the second stage is about being active. We all know exercise makes us feel good. I don't particularly feel good when I'm exercising, but I feel good afterwards when it's all done. When we are physically active, our bodies release hormones which improve our mood and enhance our well-being. Being physically active doesn't mean doing something strenuous to feel the benefit. So you could pick activities that suit your lifestyle. I really enjoy walking, and I've just started swimming on a every week. Experiment and find something you enjoy and make it part of your regular routine. Again, just have a read through this about different ideas of being active. It can just be about stretching and moving around. So the third step is about keep learning. Learning helps broaden our knowledge. It develops new skills and generates a sense of achievement. It may seem daunting at first, but often we surprise ourselves. So let's embrace new challenges. Be open to learning something new. Rediscover a previous hobby or skill. Maybe it's something that you used to do and you just haven't found the time or the inclination. It might be something you think, actually, now's the time. I'm going to try and get these 5 ways of well-being into my life. So just some ideas as well. It can be so simple. It could just be like, be curious, ask a question. And then we want to take notice. So sometimes we get overwhelmed and distracted by everyday pressures and can overlook or undervalue the simple things in life that really matter to us. Learning to take notice and find joy in the present moment can help us appreciate the positives in our lives. And just a few more ideas of taking notice. I was never a big fan of this, take a moment to focus on your breathing. I was like, oh, what's all that rubbish? And then I went to the ONF Wellbeing conference, and they had somebody there that was doing like the breathing exercises, and particularly when I was feeling really unwell through my time of when I had all that stress at work, I was taught breathing techniques when I couldn't sleep, and it really it does help. And the last step is about giving to others. So giving has multiple benefits. It makes others feel appreciated, and it makes us feel good too. And it also gives us a sense of belonging and purpose. I think all of these are fairly common sense ways to making us feel better. Even smiling and saying hello to those around you, that's a way of giving to others, and that will also make you feel better as well. So what happened in my story, I went home, my manager sent me home. She told me that work was, my health is much more important than work. I saw the doctor. At the time I had to get sleeping tablets because it was just a continuous negative cycle. like not sleeping, and then you're feeling so tired that everything feels a lot worse than it actually is. I did the had to do like schools for anxiety, spoke to somebody about that. But the thing, I think at the time, it was really scary for me because I couldn't see any way out of how I was feeling. There was no, it sounds really cheesy, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. If somebody said to me, in 3 weeks, you're going to feel so much better, I would have been able to cope. But for me, in that particular moment of my life, it felt like this was going to last forever and I couldn't find a way out. I think I had 2 weeks off work. My manager kept in touch with me regularly, and I felt, to start with, I felt even worse for letting her down, but she reinstated that I wasn't, and I was important to her and I was valued. And when I went back to work, I sat with her, we met every day, we went through my tasks, and then I focused on those tasks. Then it went to like meeting once a week. I had a mentor, she was brilliant. That was somebody in the clinical side, so it wasn't anybody in the finance team or corporate, somebody clinical in a senior management role who could talk to me about their experience as well. But I think for me, we appointed a temporary post as well to help with implementing the collaborative planning, that system that I was talking about. So there was lots that could be done, and the biggest thing was that my manager and all of my colleagues, I'm so lucky that I work in a brilliant team, all of my colleagues were really understanding and caring. And that's the thing for me that I wanted to share with you, is that if you notice somebody who's a bit quieter than normal, or if you're feeling like this, like, don't be afraid to talk to somebody about it, or go and have a chat with that person. So here's like a little daily checklist of how we could take the 5 ways of wellbeing into our lives. So just little things that we could do each day, and then have a think about how can you connect with your team and encourage them to connect. How could you and your teams get more active? What could you do to learn new things and get your team learning? What could you do to help your team take notice? Could you lead by example? Is there anything you can do this week to be kind or helpful to someone else? And then the second to last slide, this is something that we've come up with in the Norfolk and Waveney ICS. So this is something that we'd like to try and implement in our teams. We've got this Love a spreadsheet. So we've got like each week, so for each week, we're saying that we will commit to do one thing. So you've got like the blue connect, orange active, discover, notice and offer. So this is just an example, but on the Monday of the first week, I'd said that I'll send a friend a card in the post telling them why I think they're fabulous. So that would be like my way of connecting on that day. And then on another day, I was going to walk 3 miles. The next one, by discovering, keep learning, I was going to read a couple of chapters from my son's book about planet Earth. He's only 6, so it's not much of a challenge, but there's things in there that I found really interesting. And take notice. This is one of the ideas that you could do, like every couple of hours, find something in your environment that starts with each letter of your name. If you have a short name, that'd be really quick, a bit longer with a longer name. And then for my volunteering, I was going to volunteer at a food bank, and there's some different ideas for week 2. So I thought this would be really good to share with you in case you want to take it within your teams. And then the last slide that I've got is just a few more resources about how you can connect, be active, keep learning, take notice, give to others, and how you can encourage your colleagues to do the same. So that was it.
Thanks, Jodi.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's always even more powerful when there's sort of a personal link to the slides that you shared, which are brilliant, and I'll certainly be using them. And there's just one comment in the chat, and that was just to remind us all that it's not just managers helping downwards, it's managers can have an issue as well, and
yes.
we should help out in that direction as well, which is
absolutely
a great point.
Yeah, thank you.
Got nothing else from the chat. apart from thanks. Yeah, I'll certainly be giving you a hug when we meet up next.
Thank you.
Right, should we crack on? So I think Linda, you're going to give us a bands 2 to 6/student update next.
I am. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Linda Goodey. I'm a management accountant at SNE ICB, and I'm also band 2 to 6 advocate for the Eastern branch of the HFMA. I've come along today to talk to you about band 2 to 6 student group events and to ask you for some feedback on what you might like. So we've gathered a few options: process improvement, presentation skills, communication with budget holders, innovation in finance, were the 4 that Jane and I come up with that we've pulled from existing feedback. So please vote in the chat if you could like the top 2 that you think would be interesting. And also, if you've got any other ideas, feel free to put them in the chat box, and we can consider those and see if we can deliver that for you.
Brilliant, thanks, Linda. Hopefully they're in now. Just for anyone who's not on NHSnet, if you're struggling to react, I had to go into the chat and accept the invitation to be part of the chat. So that's probably just something silly from me, but if you can't get into it, have a little look.
And don't be shy about voting. And it doesn't really matter if you're not a band 2 to 6. I think, you know, we can use this for wider information as well.
Yeah, really interested to hear what future events you would like, and in addition to that, when you would like them. So HFMA runs events at all different times, conferences, workshops, lunch and learn. So we were thinking perhaps doing a lunch and learn focused on bands 2 to 6 and students. However, it doesn't need to be lunchtime. We could look at a morning session, an afternoon session. Interested to hear what your preferences would be on that.
So yeah, again, there are options in the chat. Please just like if you've got any preferences on those. And thank you to the people who've done that so far.
If you are unable to interact on here, I am going to share my contact details at the end. So happy for you to contact me via email or phone if you've got any ideas on anything that I speak about today. I can see lots of activity, which is great. So thank you all for taking part with that.
Any questions for Linda?
So in addition to the bands 2 to 6 events, I'm also involved in creating a calendar for social events for the Eastern region. That's not exclusive for bands 2 to 6 and students, that's for everybody to take part. We did ask for some feedback at the Rockstars Superstars conference in Cambridge in September, and some people did fill in a survey, and off the back of that we launched our first social event, which was Active Accountants Fitness Challenge on the Gojo app. We're really happy with the level of engagement on that. We launched it with a really tight time frame. The event took place just before Christmas, and here are the results. I'm sad to say SNE didn't win, but I was really happy that so many people took part. It was really good fun, and we're now going to get together and try and work through what our next social event might be. So if you're interested in being part of the social group, or you've got any ideas for social events that we could do face to face or remotely, please do contact me. Here's my details here, which I know will be shared afterwards. And if you're not a member of the HFMA already, please join us. We've got members at all different bands. If you're band 7 or above, there will be a fee. But for bands 2 to 6, it's free. So no brainer that you can get development, training and networking, and it doesn't cost you anything if you're a bands 2 to 6. I believe if you're a band 7 or above, I think it's about £65, something like, yeah. So it's not massively expensive, but for bands 2 to 6, everybody should be joining because it doesn't cost a penny. Any questions?
Thank you, Linda. That was really useful. You've got a little bit of collation to do in the chat now in terms of comments.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
But no questions. So, Jane, are you okay to kick in? We're back just pretty much on time.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks ever so much to the speakers, firstly for brilliant content, but secondly for getting us back on time. And I will get a learning point for myself to try not to pack the agendas quite so much in future. But hello to everyone. Anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Jane Payling. I'm the director of the Finance Academy. We've got about 14 minutes left before the end of the meeting. I'm going to concentrate on talent management at first. I may go over the 12:30 with some bits around general training and development. So please feel free to drop off as and when you need to. And yeah, just stick with me if you've got the time. So first of all, to talk, hopefully I get on the right screen, talk a little bit about talent management. Now, some of you may have heard about this because it's been launched by One NHS Finance back in the summer. And we've been starting to push it in the east of England because we are a pilot region, and more about that in a second. But I spoke to the Director of Finance on Friday, so the message might be starting to get out around the patch. But anyway, we thought we'd give value makers an early heads up on what's going on. So what you can see there is the strap line around the talent management strategy, which is quite long, but the most important thing is this is about talent management that leaves nobody in behind. This is all about trying to make sure that everybody in NHS Finance gets the support that we all need to help us to flourish in our current roles and develop our careers. So where did it come from? It came about right back before COVID, when we first started all the conversations that set up One NHS Finance. One of the things that people put forward as part of the consultation exercise was the need for more long-term thinking about careers and talent management, and not waiting until a vacancy comes up to then have a panic. But in, when you look at the documents, you kind of, it's possible to feel a bit overwhelmed because it's loads and loads of great stuff in there, but you think, oh my goodness, how can I do this as well as all the other things that I'm doing? But basically, in really simple terms, it's about having about line managers having a career focused conversation with members of staff once a year. That can be part of your appraisal, or it can be ideally separate from that, maybe at your 6 months review. But that is it. That's what talent management is all about. It's actually thinking about what people need for their longer term development, as well as what they're doing to do their current objectives. So good line managers are probably doing this anyway. So please don't panic that this is a great big piece of work. This is just about formalising and making sure everyone's got that great access to training development that supports their future as well as their current. So the idea is then that, again, this is already happening in some organisations, that the senior managers in the team do use the outputs from those career conversations to think about people's development, where they might start to move, but also to kind of widen that out into systems, so that instead of just looking within an organisation, because particularly if you're in a small organisation, quite often there aren't jobs at every single grade and all the opportunities. But if we think about it as a local system, we might say, oh, there's a vacancy coming up when someone retires in a couple of years' time. Let's think about who might be ready for that. So it's all about looking at people, looking at positions and trying to match them, and just be more proactive about matching them up. It's been rolled out throughout England, so everyone is doing this in 2024, but East of England is a pilot region, which just means that we're trying to get on with it sooner rather than later. So very quickly, this is my attempt at drawing a timeline for it, but it's a timeline where all of it kind of comes together in the middle. But basically, we're trying to go through a complete cycle during the 2024 calendar year. And it's really important, I think, to do it in the calendar year, because if we do it with financial years, we all know what happens. It gets back weighted until year end, and then we get caught up in planning and budget setting and year end accounts. and we just don't have time to do it. So the idea is to try and break from the financial year cycle, put this into a calendar year. So we're kicking it off now in January. And the very first stage is really simple. We've just asked the Director of Finance to identify a person that I can work with around talent management. That's just someone who can come along to the training courses, keep track of what's going on, and yeah, so hopefully if that's something that you're interested in, maybe it might be appropriate if the FSD lead's got some time. But if it's something that you're interested in, I'm sure that your Director of Finance would be really grateful if you want to put your hand up to be the talent management lead. Lots of launch events coming up, including at the finance conference. And then what we'll be doing from sort of March onwards is asking systems to start having those discussions about what sort of paperwork are you going to use. Lots of if you've already got paperwork in place for this, if you're already part of the what's going on through the Leadership Academy, there is no need to do anything different. But if you're not, then there's some paperwork that One NHS Finance has produced that's ready for people to use. And the idea is to have one cycle of career-based conversations between line managers and staff through 2024. As I say, lots of resources available. The idea is that those conversations happen, as I say, either as part of the appraisal or ideally separate from that, but or conscious of people's time, so you can combine it into your appraisal. And that organisations start using that information to start a bit more long-term planning. In order to check that it's going on, we're going to have check-ins because we need to report back up to the Finance Leadership Council, Jodi and Kelly, and the senior team on how it's going. So we'll be doing a check-in at June, September and December, so approximately quarterly. And then at the end of the year, we'll see how it's worked and hopefully improve it and change it to make it make it even better in 2025. So again, I will circulate the slides. Lovely Georgia will circulate the slides after the event, but in here you've got the links to the main documents that are all on the One NHS Finance site for anybody who wants to know more. The easiest thing to have a look at is the first one in the purple, which is the talent management strategy. It's really visual, it's really nice, easy read, gives you the kind of background on the model that's been suggested, if you don't already have an organisational model in place, but also kind of around timescales, etc. So that's its starting point. There's a more detailed guide, which is the blue one linked in the corner. It's got things about how to hold your talent management conversations, things like that. And to support all of this, and I'm sure as value makers, you've seen this already, there is a set of behavioural and technical competences on the One NHS Finance website for all different grades. And there's a curriculum self-assessment tool that you can go in and you say, I'm a band 2 in management accounts, and what it does for you is allows you to self-assess yourself. And as we develop and get more links on there around training courses, it does generate for you some ideas of what you might want to do. So you can actually use that curriculum self-assessment tool to say, look at what you're doing in your current role, but also what you aspire to. So if you're looking at the next step up, you could really you could maybe put in some information to see where your gaps are and access and be given ideas around the training for that next step. So here are the next steps. There you go. It's almost as though I planned it. So it's really early stages. So if this is the first you've heard of it today, please don't panic. You are absolutely ahead of the game. This is one of the first times I'm talking to anyone about it. So you're already ticked the box. But basically, take a little bit of time before the next month end and year end kick in to just familiarise yourself with some of the key documents around it. As I say, I'd start with the strategy. And if you want more details, get into the implementation guide. And in the note that came out from Julian Kelly last week to finance directors, he was very keen that they looked at the governance structure. So if you are interested in that kind of thing about how this will be reported, do have a look at that as well. As I say, we'll be asking for talent management leads from each organisation, and they'll just be the main person who will coordinate with and let people know about all the training events that are coming up. Importantly, they were having a workshop at the annual finance conference as well as a session during the main conference itself. So and then organisations and systems will be thinking about how do we have those conversations to actually develop our talent pipeline. So I'm not going to say any more there. Hopefully that's whetted your appetites. Just look out for more information on this and do come along to the training events that will be happening over the course of February. So just to let you know that I think I've mentioned it before, that we are looking at positive recruitment action in the east of England. You'll get the slide, so and there'll be lots more about this a future event, but we know that as we get more senior in our function, we become more white and more male. So we are taking action to try and help support the increased diversity at senior levels. It's very soft action. This is about supporting people, trying to encourage people to apply for the more senior roles by sharing the job adverts and giving support. And we're also aiming to try and get to the stage where if people join a positive recruitment action group, then people are sent information on those jobs, and they will also move towards a situation where people are given guaranteed first interviews for those senior roles, provided the minimum criteria are met. So lots to do in the background for me to get this to happen, but I just wanted to let you know that this is coming up. And if you are interested in joining the Positive Recruitment Action Group because you're looking for a new challenge and you are either female or you are from a minority ethnic group, please get in touch with me as I start to pull that group together. It's an email group rather than you've got to go to lots of meetings. So enough about that. Right, onto the training development, update. The first thing I've got to mention, because I'm hoping that the lovely Megan is on the is on the call, that suggested that should we set up a virtual finance network, virtual teams network channel for our value makers. So I said I would ask this group if you are interested in that. I'll stick something in the chat. Would you like to join a value maker network on Teams? I won't put anything more fancy than that. If you want to do it, stick a thumbs up and we'll join you. This is not your only opportunity, but it's just to get a few people to get it started. So that's the first thing in the training development update. Right, let me get onto the right screen. Some other really quick things to mention. Hopefully people have seen my pack. It's gone out to training leads and finance directors and deputies in the last couple of days, so it may have not made its way around the patch yet. But there are a few things I just want to draw your attention to because they're coming up really soon. And the first one is the National Development Programmes, a new overall programme for that has been launched on One NHS Finance. If you've used these programmes before, please take note, if you're a line manager, some of the categories have slightly changed. Career shapers and career progressors, the bandings for those have changed very slightly. So do have a look at them. But please be aware that career progressors, which is for bands 5 to 7, the opportunity to book that comes up is closing at the end of January. So if someone in your team, or if you're interested in it for yourself or one of your colleagues, do encourage people to register their interest in the next few days, because otherwise it will be closed for another year. So that's my absolute key one. As always, lots and lots of different opportunities for all grades. Please have a look, but particularly bands 5 to 7, don't miss out on that one. Wanted to mention that February coming up in a few days' time is our LGBTQIA+ History Month, and lots and lots of events, both from National One NHS Finance, but also from our East of England Rainbow Network. So on the slide, there are a couple of events there that you might want to be interested in. The details of how to book are on the slide. And thanks ever so much to our Rainbow Network, who've been working incredibly hard to get things going. So what next? Now, if I realise that lots of people have had to drop off, thank you very much for everyone who's stayed with it. 2 seconds to introduce a colleague to you who's I can see on my screen, Nick Passmore. So Nick, do you want to just say hello?
Hello everybody, thank you for having me.
So Nick has joined us from HFMA. I just said, Nick, come along and show people that you are a friendly face, that if anybody is interested in HFMA qualifications, we've got bursaries available through the Finance Academy for people to be able to do these qualifications for free. Nick is your very friendly, very helpful person from HFMA who can help you with that. And just to let you know that we've also, just with Nick's help, set up a little page on the Finance Academy website, which gives gives you access to a little webinar about the qualifications. It's got all the contact details, all the closing dates and things like that in there. But we would just want to get Nick to say hello. And if you are interested in any of that, please do give Nick a shout. Nick, did you want to say things for one minute? Not even that.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm available to have my brains picked over any questions. There's no such thing as a silly question with these things. You might get a silly answer, but I'll be happy to help with any inquiries about the application process, about the content, or just about the general idea that we've got behind these level 7 qualifications. So yeah, by all means, please make a note of my contact details or drop me a line if there's any interest there.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And I realised that we actually ticked over 12:30, so I won't take too much time to tell you that we did quite well with innovations in cohort 7. Thank you so much to our colleagues at the NNN who came along to talk about their innovation today. We also had some new ones from Mid and South Essex FT. In the pack, you can find all of those, and there are links to our new innovations on there. But just well done, East of England. Still got quite a long way to go, but we now have quite a good set of innovations. So keep up the good work on that one. And finally, and you'll see in my pack, if you want a New Year's resolution that's really easy to do, why don't you make a resolution to stay up to date with everything that's going on in terms of finance training and development? 2 quick things you can do. Join the LinkedIn group for East of England Finance Academy, where every time I get time, I post about all the latest events and things that you can get involved with. And secondly, just on your website favourites, bookmark the one-stop shop, Finance Academy one-stop shop, so that every time you've got 2 minutes to think about training, you can go straight in there and you can see everything that's available from HFMA, Skills Development Network, One NHS Finance, and East of England Leadership Academy, all in one place. So that is it. My contact details as normal. Sorry, Daryl, we are 2 minutes over, but thank you very much for bearing with me, everyone who's made it to the end.
Thanks, Jane. Did a great job in just holding it all together in time-wise. Thank you, everybody, for making the effort to join. As I say, if you found this interesting, then please tell your friends. And next time we run one, it'll be 3 times a year, so not too big a commitment. Then we'll have a lot more people to sort of get involved in discussion. Yeah, we'll take stock, and perhaps we'll have slightly fewer items and leave a little bit more time for discussion. But it is a bit of a learning process for us. So thank you again to all of the people that spoke this morning. It's all been brilliant from my perspective, and I'm sure I'm going to still pinch with pride some of the stuff that we've been shared today. So have a great afternoon, everybody, and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye, have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.